Hello and welcome to another episode of Electricpreneur Secrets, the Electricians podcast. It is Tuesday, just one of 5 days a week that we're here to help you master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level service. Today we've got a topic that's maybe skirting on the outsides of that, but nevertheless important. If you are running your business, if you've got a team of guys that want to take the van home, or you've ever considered this controversy of whether you should, we're going to dissect that today. A little bit of our opinions, if you care, what we think about taking the van home or the trucks, if you're a truck kind of job. I am Clay Newmeyer. This is my host or co-host. Yeah, I messed this up good today, Joe. This is my co-host, esteemed co-host. I usually say Joseph, the sales spot Lucani. And today I am so curious, Joe. How are you doing?
As always, I'm doing great. Though the eyes may not look it, it's just staring at bright lights, but I am having a great day despite our morning. We're going to have an even better afternoon. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, in the pre-show, we were just talking about how service, you know what? We train premium service providers, and thus we see all the little cracks in anyone who tries to serve us. It's super difficult to bear sometimes, and that's the reason for Joe's tears today.
Oh, yeah. That's got to be what it is, right? No, my consistent thing is you stare at lights and that's what happens. But the thing is that I feel like it's a good electrician's parallel because you know how we talk about service on a daily basis. It's everything we do, how to serve better. And as a result, we get to find where the gaps are. It's no different than being an electrician. How often have you driven past houses after you've learned to do something right? And now after you've done your service, you're like, every service you see afterwards is like, why would they have it in PVC? Why wouldn't they have an offset on it? Why is it under the point of the attachment? You just start noticing these things. It's very likely that's our situation just because we're so focused on how to constantly improve and perfect service.
100%. I agree with you. And I would say, as a shift in perspective here, just like we talked about last week, what we focus on here really isn't so much the what, but the why.
Amen.
And it's just that little shift. And so one of the things that electricians tend to not focus on as much as the what being the installation, the execution, but the why and the execution of the customer service with that why. And I would actually encourage any electrician to go back and talk to these customers, follow up and see where those gaps were. And here's a super powerful question that I've gone and asked many of our prospects and our clients at times, and I know you've probably used this in your arsenal as well, which is just, hey, can I ask a question? Would you mind being brutally honest with me and just tell me how that last interaction went, that last engagement went? Were there any shortcomings on our behalf that you wouldn't mind just addressing with me? Please don't spare my feelings. Let me have it.
Yes. And I like to add one last line to it at the very end.
Do it.
And it's the reason why. Some people, when you ask a question, they don't know why you're asking it. And as a result, they don't give you the honest answer because it's like, why the hell do you care? But if I say the reason why I'm asking is because here at Service Loop Electrical, we've done everything we can to try to offer the best service we can. And if you tell me where I'm going short, I can change and improve that. And that's my goal so that you always have the best experience possible. Would you do me the honor of being brutally honest? That way I can help you better.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, there's a little marketing nugget in there. If you were replying to problematic or low reviews in such a way that you were giving them that because frame and restating your name and what you're aiming to serve at the highest level or aiming to be the most premium service provider, when you continue to do that, it actually bumps up your SEO too.
Ooh, little nugget.
Little nugget there, little nugget, absolutely. So I appreciate that you tied the why back in there, and that is just so helpful to actually go back and inspect where you're at with that customer experience. And if the people that let us down this morning, this big service gap, like, oh, that doesn't work. You'll have to go see someone in person. I can't see someone in person. Oh, sorry, we can't help you. Wow. If they knew that, do you think they would actually fix that? Like if that was an identified gap, wouldn't you work on that?
You would think. You would think. I mean, I think if we can reverse it and say, like, we can't control others. We really can't. And the same thing with our customers, with our employees, with anything. We can't, but we can control ourselves. And through that, we can decide who follows us. I think that's really all we can control.
It's
So
true.
maybe their service wasn't great, but I know that we're going to keep being the people of integrity that we are. We are going to show up every day. We are not going to stop pushing, and we are going to keep going until eventually someone recognizes it and sees it.
That said, could I call a quick timeout?
Ah, I see what you're doing. I love it.
Here we go. I've got a proposition for anyone listening to us at this very moment. Because of this discussion and identifying gaps in service, I would just like to state that here at Service Loop Electrical, we want to serve you guys at the absolute highest level to help you master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level service. So if you could help us in identifying any gaps or potential enhancements, please let us know by joining us on the Facebook page at Electripreneur Secrets in the community there, where you can literally comment on this post or rate on the wall and tell us what you love and what you don't love and what you'd love to see more of or what you don't see enough of. That would be extremely helpful.
That'd be really great. We'd appreciate that.
Good plug?
Sounds solid.
All right. Topic of the day. Joe, should electricians be taking the van home?
I don't believe that it's a right. And that is something that I know is going to upset a lot of employees, but I'd like to explain why. If we think about someone taking a van home, right? You as the owner allowing your employee to take one of the vans home, you're equivalently giving them a raise. Because if you think about it, you're paying for the gas to and from where they have to go, right? We're also paying the additional wear and tear on the vehicle. It has got to go somewhere. We have to pay the additional maintenance because as you're using it more, and on the risk that there ever is going to be an accident, you're going to have to pay the deductible from that. And then you also have to trust the employee is going to operate it correctly. And I mean correctly, I mean, imagine there's one way when you drive in uniform, and there's another way you drive when you're out of uniform. But when the vehicle is the same and the mindset is different, I can imagine that upsetting a lot of people. I mean, imagine driving your 13-foot billboard around and then cutting someone off.
Definitely. A couple of things I want to call attention to there.
Mm-hmm.
A, you use the word a right, and I would agree. I think it's a privilege.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, there should be a framework for how that privilege is enjoyed and exercised. But
And
you also
definitely
mentioned a few things that really come down to the cost of goods sold.
Mm-hmm.
When you increase fuel, you increase tire use, wear and tear, right? Increased maintenance, increased accidents. Those are all things that don't need to happen. And we don't necessarily calculate them because we consider them so small.
Mm-hmm.
And we consider it really not an uncertainty at times.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I made this reference before and I'll do it again. Did you know that UPS as a corporation as a whole internationally has specific GPS so that they don't make left-hand turns?
I think you mentioned that because when they were going through the logistics of it, they found out that left turns had more lights and that they had more, it just took longer and their route times were longer if they could just go right instead.
And statistically, the most accidents, right? More fuel consumption, more tire wear, more time wasted. Absolutely. So all these things do add up. And just because we may be in a small business, whether you've got 1 van, 3 vans, 5 vans, or 28 vans, there is a measurable impact there. I just wanted to give that due credit. And I think that was a great place to start. Now, again, calling attention to the right versus the privilege.
Mm-hmm.
When you said it's a right, does that also imply that you don't think it's wrong to allow someone to take the van home?
I don't think it's wrong to allow the right person to bring their van home. So the money is one aspect, but the reputation is more important to me. And let me explain why. You can build a reputation over the course of 10 years. And one really bad circumstance could just damage it very badly. And almost every one of us business owners are afraid of that, right? You have especially a small mom and pop shop, you're big in the local community. I want to know who's driving my billboard. That's really what it is. You're not giving them a vehicle. You're saying, I'm going to let you drive the marketing engine for my company as you drive yourself home. So if you have someone who has road rage, that's one thing. And that's an extreme example. But let's say someone speeds a lot, or they cut other people off, or they don't respect all the rules. That could be a problem, because now I see a guy in uniform with my name on the side of the van. That's a big concern to me. Doesn't matter how much he produces, but if he wrecks the reputation, he could be a $3 million tech, and there's a concern there.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. And we know that there's all sorts of GPS that you can put in. And I've even worked for companies in the past that would have GPS in their trucks, and they would get an email if you exceeded 65 mile an hour, let's say, right? You go faster than that, they get pinged. And then the boss calls you immediately and goes, okay, man, I'm tired of getting these emails. Like, what are you doing out there? You're that big of a rush? But for that company, we actually ran trucks, more of an industrial setting. We ran a lot of trucks, and their logos were actually on the back windows. And so literally, even though we were representing that company, we all wanted it to do well. We all wanted more work. We all wanted to, perpetuate its existence and do great things. I love those guys, honestly. But there was inside jokes where guys would roll the back windows down when they were speeding, when they were driving erratically, when they were acting out of professionalism in general. Just roll the logo away and do that. Now, I know for a lot of our service providers, you're driving a billboard, man. And they should be. It's a great way to advertise. Great way. In fact, I cannot wait. Can I plug it?
Go plug it. Go for it.
I cannot wait to interview Dan Antonelli here in the coming week.
2 days.
2 days. We're going to have Dan Antonelli on the show to talk about his story and building up of KickCharge, which has become an unstoppable brand. Incredible, incredible. And we should have that stuff because it's one of the best marketing pieces you can drive around. Like you say, it's a billboard.
Yeah, I loved my wraps. I absolutely loved them. I thought they did so much for the team.
But then who is in charge of that billboard?
That's the thing. And like, I want to kind of dig into this a little bit more, because it's really the question of, is it right? Is it wrong? I mean, there is no right and wrong. Those choices are relative based on your situation. And I can't pass judgment one way or the other. But what we can do is explain facts that we understand, the reasonings behind them, and then let the people do what they want. Does that sound fair?
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. So if we think about whether it's right to let someone take a van home, we've gone through privilege, we've gone on rights. I would want to challenge the technician and say, I'm willing to let you do it, but there need to be certain KPI metrics first in which that I would want to do. What the KPI metrics could be was, okay, if you don't want to pursue revenue, what about experience? How many 5-star reviews are you getting? Could you set the expectation of, okay, maybe you're not a selling tech, but I still expect you to provide an amazing experience. And as a result, you need to receive X amount of 5-star reviews per month in order to have the access to the van the following month.
Interesting take. I like what you've done there for sure. And maybe that would also reflect, obviously no bad reviews, which could come from driving habits.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right.
Now, at the same time, I want to throw a bit of a twist in here, because my initial reaction when I see this controversy come up is actually based on retention and attrition. Attrition meaning that churn of your staff, guys. Being able to attract staff, as most of us understand at this point, is not the easiest thing in the world. There's not a ton of people lined up to go to work either. So this is also becomes a bit of a lever for your business, your attraction, and your retention, to be able to set people up on that journey to make sure they have that additional benefit. Right? And at this day and age, if you're one of the contractors or electricians that haven't quite realized that it hasn't caught up to yet, that your pricing is based on your business and your ability only. And one of the great benefits of that is it takes whatever it takes. If you've got great people and you need to hold them in-house to continue to perpetuate this brand and this business, you've got to keep people. And And if part of your retention strategy is making sure they've got a van to drive that benefit, then I would just personally ensure that it's part of a journey, part of a roadmap that we're designing for them, and making sure that there's a framework there and not just a here's the keys, don't be a fucking dick.
To say it nicely, right?
Pardon my French. I'm a little fired up this morning from prior
Yeah.
events, a little
No,
feisty, but do you agree with that, Joe?
I do. I really do. And I like the fact that you said a journey because realistically, I mean, this is just spitballing, but what you could do is you could actually set a onboarding path as well as where the van could go in its result. So you can, let's say you had the GPS tracker, sake of argument. You could say, all right, within the first 3 months, provided you hit these quotas, you can take the van to and from work. That's it. That's all we're going to allow you on the GPS. If anything ever goes, you get flagged for it. You go a little bit longer, you raise the KPI metrics, better reviews, better revenue. Okay. Well, wouldn't that justify a raise? Wouldn't you be giving them a spiff anyway? Okay. Next level, you could take the van other places. You can drive a little bit further. You can go within a 10-mile radius of where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Want to go a little bit further? Okay, great. Higher reviews, higher revenue, and maybe an additional metric that you want to add in as well. And then they could say it's a free use van, provided you're using it in the areas that you would market.
100%. I love it. You know what? I want to tie something else in here. And it's a bit of a curveball.
Okay, throw it.
You're going to see how this is applicable because we also had Jacob saying, well, I don't have a shop yet. So they have no choice. We got to take the vans home. There's nowhere really else to leave them. And when you're small and you're starting out, I mean, that's a reality for many that listen to us. So what do you do? And I want to tie in a perfect forward thinking, outside the box, guys. Put your seatbelt on because I might offend someone here. This is not typical thinking in our industry, but I believe the industry is heading in this direction, Joe. I want to give you a reference. I've got a cousin who became a dentist. And in dentistry, to open your own clinic in the United States, he's up in Seattle, in the United States, you actually need to have so much experience and a little extra certification to be able to be a dental entrepreneur, to have your own clinics. And so he partnered up with a bit of a silent partner in dentistry, a bit of a beast, if you will, in that industry. And so he was able to partner with this guy, having now funds and access to real estate. They would buy a building and open a dental clinic together. Here's where it gets interesting. Their approach was, we're going to go to dental school and attract the next up and comers and hire them for just a few months, 3 to 6 months. And if they're hard workers like us, if they fit our form, if they fit our culture, then at that point, they'll have a decision to make. And that decision was to buy in and become a partner.
Ooh.
Interesting, right? But here's what it allowed my cousin to do. Open a few more dental clinics, maintaining third ownership of each one, while owning that real estate as well. Real estate's a whole other burden in this and could be tied into this customized plan. But if you start to think how we can shift our thinking in electrical, in the sense of even satellite clinics, and having a decentralized business model, where as you saturate your area with your van or two, you also start looking for talent in the neighboring areas that you would be open to having more of a satellite. You don't actually need a shop necessarily, because that person could be wholly representing your brand in a new area and their neighborhood take over. And they could be taking a seat at the table with a share so that they're incentivized to treat that thing very special. And then guys always say, though, well, they would just buy their own van and steal all my clients. Well, that's where non-competes come in. That was still a problem for my cousin, the dentist, too. A little extra guidance there, or a little extra guard security because of the nature of trying to open your own practice. This gave people an early entry opportunity. But think about it. If you're listening to us, if you're one of our clients, if you're someone who's invested in your growth, business doesn't come overnight. This isn't easy, Joe. Right? If you guys think business is easy, go ahead, driving or not, raise a hand and just say, oh, this is a piece of cake. It's not a piece of cake.
There's
It's
no one
just
with their hands
hard.
up.
It tries your patience every day, right? The difference is some people naively might think they can do it. And that's where a non-compete comes in. For the most part, it's actually one of three places that all stars come from is actually fatigue from trying to do it themselves. Couldn't wear all 8 hats, didn't like going and pounding on doors when there was no calls coming in, didn't know how to create an offer, didn't like doing payroll, didn't even pay themselves for years. We get on the call with guys who haven't paid themselves in a year, Joe. Now, I know I went off topic, but can you start to see how this relates to the van thing? These little satellite, the idea of a satellite shop and taking over areas, saturating to that 80% and move to a new area.
In addition to that, it actually reminded me of something that there's another way around it if you don't have that shop too. So I didn't end up getting a shop until we were already well established in the business. What we did was we came up with an agreement that almost every single one of you who are listening can do. Let me just explain what it looks like. So we found there was this old ice cream shop on a main road that needed a ton of work. It was just this constantly falling down. We knew the owners, nice people, good setup. And we approached them and said, listen, you have a big parking lot. All we ask is this. Let us park one van here as often as we need. Give us access to your dumpster, and we'll do any electric work you need. And literally what would end up happening is it was a big truck, a 13-foot truck on a main road that people would have to drive by every day and look at. And all it cost us was occasionally doing some service calls and only one major install that we had to do. That was it. Every single one of you who was wondering and saying, like, Jacob, you're saying, what do? What can I do with my vans? Approach any business that you would want to rally behind. Either they've got great placement or they're a brand you would particularly stand behind and say, you know what? I support what they're doing and I want to rally behind that. You can let them know and say, hey, I will do X amount of work for you. We can come up with an agreement. I'll do X service calls. I'll make you an instant first-class customer. All I ask is you give me access to a dumpster and you let me park my van.
I love that. I love that. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking of all the times where you parked strategically at the home that you're about to service, and one of the neighbors came over, as you mentioned, because you had a generator symbol on it, right? And you do generators?
I love that.
Think about that on the main road. Think about that exposure.
We had a Generac one on one side and a Kohler on the other. So you could see Generac going one way and Kohler coming another.
And bonus, easy access ice cream. Is that what I heard?
That actually is very true. That is very, very true. There were way too many days that I probably put on more pounds than I needed to because it was so good. It'd be like a long day. It's like, give me the waffle cone and load it until I hate myself. Let's go.
You can't all sell ice cream on a hot day, Joe.
Can't all do it. Yeah, some of us have to sell electric work.
Back to our topic at hand. So I think we're in agreement that yes, taking the van home should be an option. It should be incentivized, but it also should be controlled.
100%. I really believe that it should be based off merit rather than just off logistics. If you're saying to yourself, well, I don't have a choice, they have to have my thing. What you're also saying at the same time is, I don't have control over whether my employees will represent my brand correctly. And that's a very, very big choice to commit to. I would rather say, what can I do to ensure that my brand, this reputation that I've bled for, is going to be represented the right way? How can I keep my team accountable to it?
I agree. 100%, man. I agree. 110% actually. And here's the other thing there, guys. If you didn't pick up on this earlier, there's leverage in that. There's leverage. You know where there isn't leverage? When you shoot from the hip and again, throw the keys and say, you're up. There's been no communication there. There's no framework for expectations. So there's no realized value. I mean, it's similar to the sales process, right? If you don't articulate value, they don't see it either. And they just think, oh, he wants me to take the van home. Awesome. Let's go. Giddy up.
Pretty much.
You can get so much more from this if you just do a little bit of work up front, put a little bit of planning and intention behind it, guard yourself, empower your staff, set that hierarchy, because as we know, all-star players, they don't want just money. It's about rank, recognition, rewards, and then money. Rank.
Mhm.
What does having a van give you?
Honestly, I wouldn't mind being able to be given like almost like a patch on my uniform and the keys at the same time. Be like,
Mm,
you're a certified service group electrical employee, and therefore, here you go.
I like that. It's rank, man. It's rank and recognition. Hey, in recognition of your great work here, we actually want to offer you to be able to take the van home with you. We would like you to represent us around the clock. Thank you for your service. There's only one of or 3 of 10 in our force that are doing this. Wouldn't that
Mhm.
mean something?
I think it would. In all honesty, it is the equivalent of a raise. Because if you think about what's happening here, just them going to and from in their own personal car. I mean, I was driving a Honda Civic. This thing was getting 38 miles to the gallon. I wasn't worried about efficiency. But at the same time, zero is way better than any amount that I was paying. So if you were able to say, you know what, you're not going to put wear on your own car. You're not going to risk it getting dented. You're not going to actually even have to do anything with it. You could just let it sit there in your own driveway. We'll cover it. That's all that matters because we value you as an employee. That's a pretty significant raise.
Yeah, love that. I would definitely be looking for a driver's abstract. Joe, do you know that yesterday, of course you know, you're the one that reminded me, was the first
Mm-hmm.
time in 90 episodes I did not give action and all-star actions.
Mm-hmm.
Today that we can't do that. That can't be a trend. We can't make a habit out of this. I got to fix this.
Don't worry. We'll give you a chance to rally.
Okay. You want action or all-star?
Give me the all-star.
Okay. Due diligence, guys. Action. If you're considering giving your van to someone to represent your brand, you need to exercise this due diligence for the reasons we just discussed. To leverage value and articulate that, right? To make sure it's safe and to maintain your goodwill. To avoid any compromise of your brand, you need to make sure this person understands what you're trusting to them.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound like a good action?
I'd say it's definitely a good step.
All right, all-star, feed us.
All right. The all-star action is going to take it a little bit further because you have to also, as a business owner, understand what you're trying to accomplish. It's not, I don't want to say it's like the carrot, but it's something that can motivate your employees and you need to figure out where you're trying to lead them. So I strongly recommend establishing KPIs are a requirement to take the van home. I always preferred reviews because when people think you're chasing revenue, that's where it becomes dangerous. Now, oh, we're charging a lot because we're trying to get more money rather than we're charging a lot because we have to provide great service and it's just what it costs. So I'd say the bare minimum recommendation is you need to have a KPI based on the reviews that you get. And it can also be subtracted from negative reviews. You can also have in the van an actual inventory log and say, listen, your responsibility, your van, you're the one who tracks your inventory now. Normally we had the shop person take care of it, but now this is your van. This is your responsibility. So now they also are now maintaining your inventory for you. Wouldn't you want to take that a little bit off the office as well to do that?
Oh, 100%. If you're running the van, that's got to be on you.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one pulling the inventory out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Replace it.
You're the one accountable for it.
Makes perfect sense. Did we have it? Was that it?
That'll work.
Okay. I saw you catching a breath. I didn't want to cut you off.
Now it's all good. You know me. I can always keep going. It's just, I'm like a valve, whether you want to turn me on or turn me off.
All right. Well, we got the actions out. So today I'm going to call it. And I'm going to finish this correct. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Electripreneur Secrets, the Electrician Podcast, where we're here with you 5 days a week to help you master sales, simplify pricing, and deliver premium level service. And today, somehow, we turned a topic of should you let your electricians take the van home into actually leveraging service value and increasing your profitability. Somehow we did that, Joe. And unlike earlier, let me get this right. I'm your host, Clay Newmeyer. With me, as always, Joseph Lucchini. Thank you, Joe. We'll see you guys again tomorrow.
Our pleasure and talk to you soon.